I'm Imani.
And I'm Violet.
And we are
the Collegian Girls.
So today we have a very, very special guest who most of you know as the former editor-in-chief at the Daily Collegian, Maddie Aiken. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you. So could you please just introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Maddie. I went to Penn State from 2017 to 2021, so I just graduated last year, and I was a digital and print journalism major there. And right now I'm working for the Tribune-Review, which is a newspaper in Pittsburgh.
So how has your life been since you graduated from Penn State, like work and your personal life?
It's been good. So actually, this is my second job since I graduated. So at first, my first job after graduation was at a newspaper in Maryland called Delmarva Now, which was in Salisbury, right on the Delmarva Peninsula. And I was there for about 7 months. And then I started at the Trib in February. So I've been here about 2 months now.
Okay, that's so exciting. And before we get into your current work now, what do you miss the most about being at Penn State, if anything? Do you miss it? You go back if you could?
Oh yeah, I definitely miss it. I just miss like the whole vibe of like being at college and like having like friends always nearby who you can go walk and see. I miss the Collegian a lot, and I miss working there until really late every night and getting to see everybody there every day. And I definitely miss like my professors and classes and things like that. But I'm definitely grateful for that experience and happy to be where I am now.
Right. Now, do you still talk to people at the Collegian? Do you still keep those connections?
Yeah, I still talk to several of the editors and reporters who, mostly the people who were on the board of editors whenever I was editor-in-chief. So hopefully we can talk to each other for a long time, and yes, those friendships will last forever.
Of course.
So what type of work do you do at your current job?
So right now I'm covering Westmoreland County, which is the county right next to Allegheny County where Pittsburgh is in. So I'm covering lots of community related events, a bit of borough councils, education, things like that. I'm still sort of getting to know the community because, as I'm sure you both know, whenever you start reporting, it takes a while to get to know where everything is and all the major players, and feel a part of the community. Even though I'm from the Pittsburgh area, I still feel like I'm already learning so much about Pittsburgh. So that's been really cool, getting to write those different stories and meet tons of different people.
Right. So what does a typical day look like for you?
So one thing that I really enjoy about this job is that we are working in person 3 days a week. So I think personally, I work better like in an office as opposed to remotely. So typically I work 8 to 4. And so then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I go into the office. And it's lots of just making calls, doing interviews, writing stories, sometimes getting photos for stories, and sort of just figuring out, trying to plan my day ahead. But as you both know, with reporting, sometimes you can't exactly plan ahead, so things might come up that you didn't expect. But yeah.
So what are some of the biggest challenges and greatest rewards working there?
I think right now just trying to get acclimated to everything. The Trib is cool because like a lot of the people there are really seasoned reporters. So they've been covering the area for so long. So it's cool to get to watch them report and sort of learn from their knowledge and see how they interact with sources and like even do small things like big calls. But I would say definitely like just right now I'm just trying to get used to the job, and just
Yeah.
like, I guess, get that sort of like feel. I feel like it takes like reporters a while to like really get into the swing of things.
Right.
What was the second part of the question?
Biggest challenge and greatest reward.
Oh, I think the greatest reward is just getting to tell different people's stories. And again, it's cool to get to learn from some seasoned reporters and editors, and just try to make an impact in the Pittsburgh area.
Yeah. Now, why did you leave the newspaper in Maryland? Was it just because you wanted to be closer to home? Was it a better opportunity where you're at now?
So I would say when I started applying for jobs, it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to go back to Pittsburgh, just because my family's here and I know Pittsburgh really well. So I always sort of thought like maybe I'd want to work for the Trib someday. And then the opportunity came up and I decided, might as well go for it. I did really like working in Maryland and living there. But I would say that it was just a bit hard being far from home. So that might have pushed me a little bit more to pursue jobs in Pittsburgh. But in my head, I had always wanted to go back to Pittsburgh. So it seemed like the perfect timing.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that because me looking for jobs now, I'm like, I do want to stay close to the Philly area, at least for a few years, kind of like save up some money, kind of get in the swing of things like you were talking about, and then maybe go ahead, venture out. But I totally relate to that. Like, just kind of want to stay close to home for now, just until I get my feet up with everything and then go ahead and go out.
Yeah. And I feel like in college, like you get like a big summer break and you get like winter break and spring break. And, if you're like within a few hours of campus, you can go home for a weekend. So I think I was very used to that sort of pattern. And then like, it was very weird to, not get like, oh, I have like a big 3 months summer break coming up, or, oh, I don't get like 3 weeks off for Christmas to see my family. So I think that was something that I think I probably knew, but like you don't really take it into account until you're, actually living somewhere far from home.
Right. Now, were you able to kind of go back home at some point or barely?
Yeah, I was. Okay. I think I went home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then I think like one other time. But it was just like, it's such a pain, like having to drive 6 hours, and then I got a cat while I was there, so then I have to drive with him in the car for 6 hours, which he didn't really like that. He would like meow the whole time. So it is very nice to be back home.
Right.
So I know, especially for graduates who graduated in like 2020 and like 2021, it was extra like hard to get a job because COVID and everything. So how long did it take for you to get a job after graduating?
So when I started applying for jobs, which I didn't start applying for jobs probably until like the end of April or May, because I was like, being editor-in-chief was just such a big task that I didn't really have time to apply for jobs until after I was done with it, which I think lots of people who are in extracurriculars experience. So when I went into it, I think I had there was some anxiety there because I thought I had really only experienced applying for internships, and at least in my experience, applying for internships was actually more stressful than applying for jobs. So I really didn't experience too much difficulty with finding a job, but there were also definitely more jobs out there, at least last year at this time, and I think there might be even more jobs right now out there because there is a bit of a worker shortage. So I know people who graduated in 2020 who it took them months to find a job because no one was hiring. But when I was looking for jobs, there were actually several opportunities that came up, and then I got to apply for the job that I'm in now. So I think that it definitely, it's not like you don't have to do any work to get a job, but I think that if you have a good resume and if you're really passionate about what you do and you really care, then you won't have too many difficulties finding a job right now.
Right. And do you have any words any advice or words of encouragement for seniors trying to find jobs? And I know you just started to touch base on like just being passionate about what you do, and it's not too hard to get a job, but
yeah, I just say, it's going to be okay. Definitely, I would advise, I don't want to say like wait for the perfect job, because I think that like our idea of like the perfect job is probably gonna fall short, or you might decide you are interested in something completely different. So don't wait for the perfect job, but at the same time, don't just like accept the first job that comes your way. I would say make sure that you have like a basic guideline of like, this is where like the area I would want to be in. This is maybe like the things that I would want to do. This is what I really enjoyed in my classes or in my extracurriculars. And this is like maybe like what sort of jobs can I pursue that in, and then go from there. So I'd say keep an open mind, but also make sure that you're going to be doing something that's fulfilling to you and that you paid to go to school for. I think those things are important.
Yeah.
But don't stress out too much if things don't seem to be working out right away. I actually, in between graduating and starting my first job, I had about a 2-month break, and that was actually really nice. It was like really like good to spend some time just like relaxing, especially since after the Collegian, that was basically like a 24/7 job just in terms of my availability. So it was really nice to be able to have a few weeks to be at home and like relax. And I got to go on vacation with my family. So if you feel like you need that, I think that's fine. I would just say make sure you're disciplined and you're actually looking for jobs, and actually have a plan in place. But there's nothing wrong with also taking time for yourself and your mental health.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that, because people being me, people think that you just need something right away, and everybody's path is different. Like, it's okay if your friend has a job right out of college, but if you don't, it's okay. And I'm happy that you said that you took a break, because it's nothing wrong with that. I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves to just know what the next steps are, but sometimes it does require just taking a step back real quick and getting that time to yourself. No, I do have a follow-up question. And this is kind of a question for myself, but everybody can benefit from it. So do you have any tips on like the interview process? How do you prepare for interviews, kind of settle your nerves to that? Because I get really nervous when it comes to interviews. I feel like I screw up just by overthinking about it. Yeah. So what are some of your tips when it comes to interviewing?
Yeah, I'd say, well, first off, I'd say before the interview process, make sure you have a good cover letter. Well, some places don't require a cover letter, but when they do, I think it's just important to make sure you have like one that's unique. It doesn't even need to be like amazing. I think it just needs to show a bit of like your personality and your experience. And also I think that, if you have a good cover letter that maybe tells a story or maybe shares a specific experience or reason why you are where you are, you can even talk about that in the interview. So then that might be sort of nice. But in terms of preparing for interviews, I think usually I jot down a few notes about maybe things that I would want to touch on, things that I think that an employer should know about me. I also think it's good to write down a few questions about, because like they're inevitably going to say, do you have any questions for me? And especially if you're applying for a journalism job, you should definitely have some questions about the position. So definitely write down a few questions that you would want to get answered. But I'd say just like try to maybe make it more conversational, because I think if you're laughing during the interview or you're like going back and forth with the person interviewing you, well, first of all, I think that just sort of shows what you would be like in an office or shows what sort of person you'd be to work with. But I think also that might diminish some nerves so that it isn't so like rigid, like, answering questions one by one. And I just remember to be yourself, and it will be okay. I think it's always good to also think of interviews as, even if like this interview doesn't end up with a job offer, it was still like I still got to talk to somebody who probably has a lot of experience in their field, so that's beneficial. And also you got to practice for any future interviews that you might have.
Right. So it's all just a learning experience at the end of the day.
Yes.
So how did your time at Penn State help you on your career journey?
I think especially at the Collegian, I think that really maybe even like over prepared me for being a reporter, because I mean it's very nice now that I get to like have like, you know, and you get to have like actual 8-hour schedules, because at the Collegian it's very much like whenever you are available you need to be doing something for the Collegian, and that's at least that was my experience, and that was not always the best. So I think that my classes definitely helped me prepare for reporting, especially I took in-depth with Russ Eshelman, and that really helped me have a grasp on how to write in-depth stories. And then I think that my time at the Collegian prepared me for knowing reporting basics, but also just knowing what's expected of journalists in the real world, and you know how they should interact with people and how they can succeed.
Right. Now we always try to throw in a little fun question here and there when we bring our guest in. So considering where you are in life now, what would you tell your younger college self? Although you did just graduate, but I'm just saying like maybe like your freshman year self.
Wow, that's a deep one. I think I'd definitely, well, one thing that I would say that I think I do wish that I did in college was I feel like I've gotten the point across that I spent a lot of time at the Collegian, but I wish that I also like there was definitely a point sophomore year where that sort of became like almost like my whole life. And I wish that I had taken a step back and been like, you know, I'm gonna try to go out and make other friends or maybe join another club. So I wish that I had you know, I was like part of a Bible study freshman and sophomore year, and then slowly for like collegian reasons and other reasons, I like just sort of, you know, stopped going as much. And I wish that I had stuck with that or found a different one. And I wish that maybe I had like made some more friends in my classes. So I think I would tell myself to not get stuck in I mean, it's great that I was so comfortable at the Collegian, but not like make that my entire life. And also, I think I would tell myself, in a lighter note, I would tell myself to buy more clothes that I like that are also professional. Because I found that like last year and now this year again, I'm always like having to buy more like clothes that I can wear to work. So it's like silly, but I feel like I like wore lots of like sweatshirts and like, you know, like summer outfits, but not like many things that I could wear to an office. So I wish that I had stocked up on work clothes, which is what I'm doing now.
Yeah, no, that's extremely important, because now I'm kind of looking in my closet and feeling the same way, like, wow, I have no business like work clothes at all.
Yeah.
So that's important.
That's
yes.
advice.
Yeah.
So were there any like expectations and like reality kind of moment, like before when you were in school, you were like, oh, it's gonna be like this when I graduate, but now that you graduated, it's like very different, or anything like that?
I think that I feel like maybe I just like didn't think about it, but I feel like maybe like I didn't realize like that it definitely is more difficult to make friends when you are out of college, because there are not as many opportunities to just like go out and meet people. So I wish I don't like really know like if I could have prepared for that, because I feel like everybody just has to go through that on their own. But it definitely has been interesting to figure out like, you know, where are places that you can make friends as an adult, because like we're so used to just like, you know, going to a club meeting or like talking to people in class, and now that definitely like that just sort of like aspect of life isn't there anymore. And I think you also have to be more intentional about making friends like at work, or making friends at church, or making friends, I don't know if you like take a community college class or something, but you really have to like put yourself out there. And I think I sort of took for granted like the ease of making friends at Penn State or in high school.
Mhm. Now, do you think that you're making up for that now? Like, so have you been making friends at your jobs and, just
Yeah,
like,
definitely. Yeah. And I think it's like also sort of forced me to, like, I'm naturally like more shy and introverted.
Mhm.
So it has like made me like put myself out there, and maybe like try to be a friend to other people rather than waiting for them to be a friend to me.
Right. No, that's important. And our last question is, well, you've been giving advice throughout your whole interview, which I love, but to end it on the note, do you have any advice on how to prepare post-graduation? Just any
Yeah.
other lingering advice that you have?
Hmm. I think just like be ready that it's probably not going to be what you expect, but that's okay. And just trust that everything's going to work out.
Perfect.
Well, so that's all the questions we have, but before we leave, like if you want to add anything else.
I don't think so. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited to see what you both do after graduation.
Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time out to come and be on the Collegian Girls.
Oh yeah, sure thing.
We were personally very excited to have you today because we haven't seen you in like so long.
Yeah, the last time you saw my face on like a screen was probably in like candidate class.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in to our 8th episode. We are slowly coming to the end of the semester. That's so sad, but we're happy to share all of our insight with you. And I'm Imani.
And I'm Violet.
And I'm Maddie.
And we are
the Collegian Girls.